Story disclaimer. This story is a work of fiction and is intended for entertainment purposes only. The content includes dark themes, horror elements, and fictional depictions of rituals and sacrifices that are purely imaginative and not reflective of any real-life practices or beliefs. Viewer discretion is advised. This video is not suitable for younger audiences, and parental guidance is recommended. The story does not endorse or promote any harmful behavior, violence, or dangerous activities. Please note that all characters, events, and settings are entirely fictional and created for the purpose of storytelling. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events, is purely coincidental. In this final episode, Femi, Amara, Chioma, and Tunde set out on a powerful journey to reclaim their freedom from the devil's grip. With Legos twisted by shadows and their resolve tested, they must confront their darkest fears and embrace the truths they once avoided. Each step brings them closer to a final showdown where courage, unity, and sacrifice are put to the ultimate test. As they battle not only external darkness but the shadows within themselves, the city stands on the brink of redemption or collapse. Will they find the strength to reclaim their lives and heal their community, or will the devil's influence prove too strong? Stay tuned to uncover the fate of these four friends in a tale where hope, love, and resilience fight against overwhelming odds. The city of Legos crumbled around them, swallowed by darkness. Femi, Amara, Tunde, and Chioma stood huddled together, their hearts racing as the stranger's laughter echoed through the air. They had rejected his power, but the hold he had over them was stronger than they had imagined. "We need to figure this out," Femi said, his voice barely audible above the chaos. "There has to be a way to break free." Amara's grip on the charm tightened, and she glanced at Femi, her eyes filled with determination. "What if we find the source of his power? Maybe if we destroy that, we can free ourselves." Tunde frowned, still shaken by the events. "But where do we even start? This isn't the Legos we know. Everything's different." Amara stepped forward, determination in her eyes. "We start by finding the truth. Somewhere, buried in this twisted version of our world, is the key to breaking free." The group nodded in agreement, though uncertainty weighed heavily on them. They had rejected the stranger's offer, but they still had to face the consequences of their choices. And now, their only hope was to find the truth hidden within the nightmare that had become their reality. As the group walked through the dark, crumbling streets of Lagos, the weight of their decision to reject the stranger's power hung over them. The city felt like a ghost of its former self, with buildings reduced to rubble and the sky constantly shifting between dark clouds and flickers of red. Shadows danced around them, as if watching their every move. "We need to stay focused," Femi said, leading the way. "If we let fear take over, he'll win." The sound of footsteps echoed in the distance, causing them all to stop in their tracks. Tunde's eyes darted around nervously. "What's that? Are we being followed?" "I don't know," Chioma whispered, her voice trembling. "But it feels like we are not alone." They pressed on cautiously, the sense of being watched growing stronger with every step. The once vibrant streets of Lagos had become a twisted maze where nothing seemed familiar anymore. The towering buildings that once symbolized progress and success now stood as eerie reminders of the consequences of unchecked ambition. After what felt like hours of walking, they reached a massive gate at the end of the street. It was made of iron, rusted and ancient, with strange symbols carved into it. In front of the gate stood a figure draped in a tattered cloak, his face hidden beneath a hood. "Who are you?" Femi called out, stepping forward cautiously. The figure lifted his head slightly, revealing a face wrinkled with age and a pair of piercing eyes that seemed to see through them. "I am the keeper of the gate," the man said in a deep, gravelly voice. "You seek the truth, do you not?" Femi exchanged a glance with Amara. "Yes. We want to know how to stop the stranger and break free from this nightmare." The gatekeeper let out a low chuckle. The truth comes with a price. Are you prepared to face it? Tunde, feeling the weight of their journey, stepped forward. We have no choice. We've already paid a heavy price for wanting success. We are ready to do whatever it takes to break free. The gatekeeper nodded slowly and stepped aside, gesturing toward the massive gate. Beyond this gate lies the heart of the truth. But beware, the truth is not always what you wish it to be. As the gate creaked open, a gust of cold wind rushed past them, sending shivers down their spines. Beyond the gate, they could see a path leading into a dense, dark forest. The trees loomed high, their branches twisted and gnarled, almost like arms reaching out to grab them. We go together, Amara said firmly. No matter what happens, we face this as a team. They entered the forest, the shadows growing longer as they ventured deeper into the unknown. The air grew colder, and a thick mist began to rise from the ground, obscuring their path. It felt like the trees themselves were alive, watching their every move, waiting for them to stumble. This place is giving me the creeps, Tunde muttered, glancing around nervously. How do we even know we are going the right way? We don't, Chioma said, her voice barely above a whisper. But we have to keep moving. The forest seemed to stretch on forever, with no sign of an end in sight. The deeper they went, the more they felt a strange pull, as if something was drawing them closer. But closer to what? None of them could say. Suddenly, the mist parted, and they found themselves standing in a clearing. In the center of the clearing was a small, weathered cabin, its roof sagging under the weight of time. A faint light flickered inside, casting eerie shadows on the ground. That must be it, Femi said, pointing toward the cabin. The truth we are looking for is in there. The others nodded, though they hesitated for a moment. The cabin seemed almost too ordinary, too unassuming to hold the answers they sought. But they had come too far to turn back now. As they approached the cabin, the door creaked open on its own, inviting them inside. Femi stepped through the threshold first, followed closely by the others. Inside, the cabin was dimly lit, with a single candle flickering on a table in the center of the room. There were no windows, and the air was thick with the scent of old wood and dust. Sitting at the table was an old woman, her face wrinkled with age but her eyes sharp and alert. She looked up as they entered, a knowing smile playing on her lips. You've come seeking the truth, she said, her voice soft but firm. But the truth you seek may not be the one you're ready to hear. Amara stepped forward, her voice steady. We need to know how to break free from the devil's grip. We made a mistake, and now we want to fix it. The old woman's smile faded slightly, and she gestured for them to sit at the table. The devil's grip is not easily broken, she said. For he preys on your desires, your fears, and your weaknesses. To defeat him, you must first defeat the darkness within yourselves. Femi frowned. What do you mean? The old woman leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. The devil's power comes from the choices you made, the things you desired most. Fame, fortune, power, these are the tools he used to trap you. To break free, you must be willing to give them up completely. Tunde's heart sank. Give them up? But, we've worked so hard for everything we've achieved. The old woman nodded. That is the price of freedom. You must let go of the very things that brought you here. Silence fell over the group as they absorbed her words. Could they truly give up everything? Their fame, their success, their influence. It seemed impossible, but deep down, they knew it was the only way. We'll do it, Femi said at last, his voice filled with resolve. We'll give it all up. The old woman smiled once more, her eyes twinkling with approval. Then you are ready to face the truth. With a wave of her hand, the candle on the table flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. But within the darkness, a new light began to shine, one that would guide them toward the heart of the truth they sought. The light that shone in the darkness was faint at first, just a small glimmer in the void. But as the old woman's words echoed in their minds, the light grew brighter, illuminating the room. Femi, Amara, Tunde, and Chioma felt its warmth, a welcome change from the cold that had gripped them for so long. "What is this?" Amara asked, shielding her eyes from the brightness. "This," the old woman said, her voice now coming from everywhere and nowhere at once, "is the light of truth. It is the only thing that can pierce the shadows that have taken hold of your lives." The cabin around them began to dissolve, the walls and ceiling fading away into the light. The group found themselves standing in a vast, open space, surrounded by an endless horizon of bright, white light. It was as if they had left the world behind entirely. The old woman appeared before them again, though now she seemed younger, her wrinkles gone and her face serene. "The path forward is clear. You must confront the darkness within, the part of yourselves that allowed the devil to take control. Only then can you truly be free." "How do we do that?" Femi asked, his voice quiet but determined. The old woman pointed to the ground beneath their feet, and the light began to shift, revealing 4 large mirrors standing in a perfect circle around them. Each mirror reflected a different version of themselves, versions they had never seen before. "These mirrors," the old woman explained, "will show you the truth about who you are. They will reveal the fears, desires, and regrets that the devil used to bind you. Look into them, and you will see the path to redemption." The group exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what they would find. But they knew they had no choice. To break free from the devil's grip, they had to face whatever lay within themselves. One by one, they stepped toward the mirrors, ready to confront the truths that had been hidden for far too long. The journey was far from over, but the first step had been taken, the step toward redemption, no matter the cost. Femi was the first to approach his mirror. The reflection that stared back at him wasn't the confident, successful man he had become. Instead, it was the version of himself he had tried to bury, the young boy who had grown up in the slums, hungry for power, respect, and wealth. His clothes were ragged, his eyes filled with anger and desperation. The mirror spoke without words, as if the truth of his soul was being revealed directly into his mind. It showed him every decision he had made out of fear, every time he had chosen ambition over kindness. Femi's hands clenched into fists as he saw how the devil had preyed on his hunger for success. He had sold his integrity for a fleeting sense of importance. "I did it all for a better life," Femi muttered, trying to justify his past. But the mirror only showed him more, the people he had hurt along the way, the friendships he had sacrificed for personal gain. A tear slipped down his cheek. He had to admit the truth to himself, his success had come at a cost, one too high to pay. He took a deep breath, and with trembling hands, he whispered, "I let go." The mirror shimmered, and his reflection faded. In its place, he saw a light, a new beginning. It wasn't fame or fortune, but peace. Femi stepped back, his heart feeling lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. Next was Chioma. She stood before her mirror and was shocked to see a version of herself she didn't recognize. This reflection was proud, cold, and calculating. Chioma had always been fiercely independent, but the mirror revealed how she had pushed people away, afraid to show vulnerability, always wanting to be seen as strong. She saw the many opportunities for love and friendship she had rejected, thinking they would make her weak. "I was only trying to protect myself," Chioma whispered, but the mirror showed her the truth. It wasn't protection. It was fear. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized how alone she had made herself. She had traded connection for power, never realizing that true strength came from love. "I don't need to be alone anymore," she said, her voice cracking. The mirror faded, and like Femi's, it showed her a path to peace, a life where she embraced others instead of shutting them out. Chioma turned away from the mirror, her heart aching but full of hope. Tunde hesitated in front of his mirror. When he finally stepped forward, he saw himself, but not the man of wealth and influence he had become. His reflection was uncertain, scared, and full of doubt. The mirror revealed his deepest fear, that without his success, he was nothing. He had always believed that people only valued him for his achievements, not for who he truly was. "I thought I had to prove myself," Tunde said softly. But the mirror showed him how that belief had driven him to the devil's offer. He had been chasing validation from the outside world, not realizing that he was worthy just as he was. He swallowed hard, feeling exposed. But then, he made a decision. "I don't need to be defined by what I have," he said, looking straight into his reflection. "I'm enough." The mirror glowed brightly, dissolving his fears. Tunde smiled for the first time in what felt like years. He was ready to live for himself, not for the approval of others. Amara was the last to face her reflection. Her mirror showed her as she was, but her eyes were filled with guilt. The mirror revealed every time she had compromised her values to stay in the spotlight. She had taken shortcuts, betrayed her principles, all for the sake of fame. "I just wanted to be seen," Amara whispered, her voice shaking. "I wanted the world to know me." But the mirror made her face the truth: fame wasn't the same as being truly known. She had lost sight of her real self in the pursuit of attention, becoming someone she barely recognized. "I don't want to be this person anymore," Amara said, wiping away her tears. "I want to be me, even if it means giving up the spotlight." With that, her reflection faded, and the mirror showed her a new path, one where she could be free of the need for validation. Amara took a deep breath, feeling lighter than she had in years. Together, the four friends stood before the mirrors, transformed by the truths they had faced. They had given up the things that had bound them to the devil, and now they were free to move forward. The old woman reappeared before them, her face serene. "You have done well. The hardest part is over. Now, you are ready to face him." The light from the mirrors faded, and the world around them shifted once again. They found themselves standing on the outskirts of Lagos, in a place that seemed both familiar and foreign. The sky above was dark, with swirling clouds that seemed to be alive. The buildings around them were twisted and distorted, as if reality itself had been bent by the devil's influence. In the distance, they could see a massive tower, its spires reaching into the stormy sky. It was the source of the darkness that had overtaken the city, the lair of the stranger who had promised them everything. "We have to go there," Femi said, his voice steady. "That's where it all ends." The group began their journey toward the tower, the weight of their choices still heavy on their minds. But this time, they felt different. Stronger. They had faced the darkness within themselves, and now they were ready to confront the devil himself. As they approached the tower, the ground beneath them trembled, and the air grew thick with tension. It felt as if the city itself was alive, resisting their presence. Shadows moved in the corners of their vision, but they pressed on, undeterred. When they reached the base of the tower, they were met by a massive iron door, engraved with strange symbols. The door swung open on its own, as if inviting them inside. Without a word, they stepped through the threshold, entering the heart of the devil's domain. The interior of the tower was vast and empty, with walls of black stone that seemed to absorb the light. At the center of the room stood a figure dressed in an immaculate white suit, the stranger. He smiled as they approached, his eyes gleaming with amusement. "I see you've come to challenge me," the stranger said, his voice smooth and confident. "But are you truly ready to give up everything I've given you?" "We've already made our choice," Chioma said firmly. "We don't need your power anymore." The stranger's smile widened, and he spread his arms wide. "Is that so? Well, let's see if you can really let go." With a snap of his fingers, the room began to shift. The walls melted away, revealing scenes from their past, moments when they had made choices that led them down the path of darkness. Femi saw himself turning away from his family, choosing wealth over relationships. Chioma saw the friends she had pushed away, all in the name of strength. Tunde saw his endless pursuit of validation, and Amara saw the moments she had betrayed herself for fame. The images were haunting, but the group stood firm. They had already faced their darkest selves, and now they were ready to leave it all behind. "You can't control us anymore," Femi said, his voice filled with conviction. "We've made peace with who we are." The stranger's smile faltered for the first time. "You think you can defy me? After everything I've done for you?" "We don't need you," Amara said, stepping forward. "We never did." The stranger's eyes flashed with anger, and the ground beneath them began to shake. "You will regret this," he hissed. "I gave you everything, and now you want to throw it all away." But the group remained united, their bond stronger than the devil's power. They had made their choice, and no amount of manipulation could change that. The stranger let out a furious scream, and the tower began to crumble around them. But as the walls fell, the darkness lifted, and the sky above Lagos began to clear. The storm was over. As the tower collapsed, the group found themselves standing in the center of the city once more. The streets were empty, but the oppressive weight of the devil's influence was gone. The air was lighter, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, they could breathe freely. "We did it," Tunde said, his voice filled with wonder. "We are free." But the victory was bittersweet. They had given up everything: their fame, their success, their influence. They were no longer the powerful figures they had once been, but they were at peace with that. "We may not have what we used to," Chioma said, looking around the city. "But we have something better. We have ourselves." Femi nodded. "And that's enough." They stood in silence for a moment, taking in the enormity of what they had accomplished. They had faced their darkest fears, confronted the devil himself, then come out on the other side stronger than before. But their journey wasn't over yet. There was still much to be done. Lagos had been scarred by the devil's influence, and it would take time to heal. But the group was ready to face whatever came next. "We rebuild," Amara said, her voice filled with determination. "We help the city heal." With newfound purpose, Femi, Chioma, Tunde, and Amara began their journey to heal Lagos. They knew they had to restore the city, not just for themselves, but for everyone affected by the devil's corrupting influence. As they walked the streets, they noticed the people around them. Many were lost, searching for a way out of the darkness that had enveloped them for too long. The group gathered in a local community center, which had seen better days. The walls were faded, and the chairs were worn out. But it was a familiar space, and the people who lived nearby began to trickle in, curious about the gathering. Femi stepped forward. "We've come to tell you that we can make a change. We can help each other, but we need your help too." The room fell silent. Some people were skeptical, while others looked hopeful. Chioma added, "We know what it's like to chase after the wrong things. We've learned that true success is found in community, not in fame or wealth." Tunde spoke next, his voice steady. "Let's start by listening to each other. We want to hear your stories, your struggles. Together, we can create a path forward." One by one, people began to share their experiences. A young mother spoke about her struggles to provide for her children. An elderly man talked about how he had lost everything in the pursuit of riches. The room filled with voices, each telling a unique story, but all sharing a common thread of loss and hope. As they listened, Femi, Chioma, Tunde, and Amara realized how interconnected their lives were. They were all trying to find a way to heal from the wounds inflicted by the devil's promises. "Let's create a program," Amara suggested, her eyes lighting up. "A way to support each other and rebuild our community." The group agreed, their spirits lifting. Together, they brainstormed ideas for workshops and support groups. They would share their skills and knowledge, helping others find jobs and opportunities to thrive. They envisioned a community united in strength, learning from one another and growing together. With their plan in place, the group set to work. They organized the first workshop, inviting the community to participate. The day of the event arrived, and excitement filled the air. People from all walks of life gathered, curious about what they could learn. Chioma took the lead, sharing her journey and the lessons she had learned about vulnerability and strength. She encouraged others to embrace their true selves and not be afraid to ask for help. As she spoke, she saw nods of understanding and recognition in the crowd. Tunde followed with a workshop on personal finance. He shared practical tips on saving money, budgeting, and investing in oneself. It's not about how much you earn, he told them, but how you manage what you have. Femi shared his story of overcoming adversity, emphasizing the importance of relationships over material success. We need each other to succeed. Let's build each other up instead of tearing each other down, he urged. The room buzzed with energy as people engaged in discussions, sharing ideas and encouraging one another. There was laughter and warmth, a stark contrast to the coldness that had once dominated the city. As the day ended, the group felt a sense of accomplishment. They were not just helping others, they were healing themselves in the process. The community was coming alive again, and they were at the heart of it. Just when things seemed to be going well, a shadow from the past returned. News spread through the community that the stranger, the devil they had confronted, was not finished yet. Some people claimed to have seen him lurking around, stirring doubt and fear among the townsfolk. Amara gathered her friends, her expression serious. We can't let him undo everything we've built. We have to confront him again. But how? Tunde asked. We've already faced him. What more can we do? Chioma's eyes narrowed as she thought. We need to show the community that fear has no power over us. We've faced our own fears, now we must help others face theirs. Femi nodded. We can organize a community meeting, a way to stand together against the influence of the devil. If we unite, he can't break us. They announced the meeting and encouraged everyone to come. As the day approached, tension filled the air. The community was anxious, but they were also determined. Together, they would confront the darkness that still lingered. On the day of the meeting, people filled the community center. Amara stood before the crowd, her heart racing. We've faced darkness before, and we won. But we have to stay united. We can't let fear control us any longer. Femi took a deep breath. Let's share our stories. Let's shine a light on the shadows and prove that love and community are stronger than fear. One by one, people shared their experiences with the stranger. They spoke of moments when they had felt his presence and how it had made them doubt themselves. But as they shared, they also spoke of resilience and hope. They reminded each other of the support they had found in their community. With each story shared, the atmosphere in the room grew stronger. People began to feel empowered, realizing they were not alone. The stranger's influence was weakening as the crowd united against it. As the meeting reached its peak, the lights flickered and the air grew cold. The devil's presence filled the room, and a low laughter echoed around them. You think you can challenge me, he taunted, stepping forward, his face twisted with malice. But the community stood firm. Femi raised his voice. We are not afraid of you anymore. You've lost your power over us. The stranger smirked. But I gave you everything you wanted. You owe me. No. Chioma shouted. We never owed you anything. We've learned the value of community and love. You are nothing compared to the strength we find in each other. With that declaration, a bright light began to radiate from the center of the room. The energy of the community was palpable, shining brighter with each affirmation of support. The stranger recoiled, his face contorting with rage. "You'll regret this." But the light enveloped him, and he screamed in anger as he was pushed back by the force of their unity. The crowd began chanting together, their voices rising as one, driving the devil away. "You have no power here," they cried. "We are free." With one final roar, the stranger vanished into thin air, leaving behind an empty room filled with light and hope. As the dust settled and the crowd fell silent, a sense of peace washed over them. They had faced their fears, stood against the darkness, and emerged victorious. The air felt lighter, and the city seemed to breathe easier. Femi looked around at his friends, their faces filled with relief and joy. "We did it," he whispered, unable to contain his smile. Chioma nodded, tears of happiness in her eyes. "We fought for our community, and we won." Tunde raised his hands in celebration. "This is just the beginning. We have so much work to do, but we are ready." Amara smiled, feeling the weight of her past lift. "Let's continue to support each other and grow together. We've built something beautiful here." As they stepped outside, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over Lagos. The city felt alive, vibrant, and full of promise. Together, they had not only healed themselves but also created a community rooted in love and support. Hand in hand, they walked through the streets, ready to face whatever the future held. They knew that darkness might return, but they were no longer afraid. They had found their strength in one another, and that bond would carry them through anything. The story of their journey would continue, not just for them but for the city of Lagos, a tale of resilience, unity, and the enduring power of love. The echoes of their victory resonated throughout Lagos. Inspired by the courage of Femi, Chioma, Tunde, and Amara, more community gatherings began to take place. People shared their stories, forged new friendships, and helped one another heal from their past. The darkness that had once loomed over the city slowly faded, replaced by a vibrant energy that pulsed through the streets. Hope blossomed in the hearts of its residents, reminding them that they were never alone. And so, the journey continued, a tale still unfolding in the heart of Lagos, where love and unity would always shine brighter than any darkness that dared to return.